Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you this March 25th, 2025. I've got all of your stories for your rush hour ride to work. And on today's episode, we'll be discussing last night's Bachelor finale, who Grant chose, and the fallout that came from that last-minute decision. Also, Golden Bachelor and Bachelor in Paradise will be combining on the beaches of Mexico. I think they're in Mexico. Maybe it changed this year. We'll find out, as the Golden Bachelor contestants will be joined by the normal Bachelor contestants on this summer show. So we'll discuss that. And a basketball coach fired after tugging on the ponytail of one of his players, and he may be facing crimes. Also, Blake Lively's boss fired. And by Blake Lively's boss, I mean her agent, Ari Emanuel, also Ryan Reynolds' agent. He was fired during a private equity takeover of his company. He'll be fine. He's a rich billionaire. But what does this mean? Was it because of the upcoming trial? Maybe shedding liability? We'll find out. And also, speaking of shedding liability, Sydney Sweeney may be shedding her engagement ring. Does she wear an engagement ring? Maybe not anymore, as she's untagging photos as, the precursor to a breakup. We'll share what that means. And for all of the men out there that think they may have a shot with Sydney Sweeney, we will yet to be seen, right? And also a group chat whoopsie. That's what we're calling it, a whoopsie, as it's coming out that the Department of Defense was planning an attack and accidentally did it in a group chat with a journalist. That journalist became a tattletale, and we're going to share his side of things in what some are calling one of the greatest dumb mistakes that has ever really come out of the government. And of course, it could have led to many deaths if this was information in the wrong hands. So we'll share what Pete Buttigieg has to say about that, along with a lot of others in this most idiotic moment to come out of the new presidency. Alrighty, all these stories and more, it's happening right now on The Rush. I love fan feedback. And on last episode, we talked about an octopus that was spotted catching a joyride, as they're calling it, on a mako shark, which led to this comment from you guys. I'm going to read it for you right now. We have a comment here that says, I saw your recent YouTube video about the octopus on a shark. You mentioned that you thought octopus were aliens, and you are a bit right. The last scientific study I saw said that octopus come from meteorites, so technically they are aliens on Earth. And boy, when I tell you I love my audience and we learn something new, I teach you guys something and you guys teach me something. There it is. Do octopus come from outer space? I mean, have you ever saw a title of an article like that and not read it? A scientific paper claims that these wondrous, smart undersea animals are actually aliens brought to Earth by meteors. So it happened 540 million years ago. I guess they were some frozen octopus eggs that were riding a meteor. So let me get this straight. Octopus went from riding meteors to riding mako sharks. I think they just like to hitch themselves some rides. I mean, these are the hitchhikers from the galaxy they talk about. So more info to come. If we have any octopus experts out there, please call into the channel. All right, let's get into it. We'll just talk Bachelor. So we have Bachelor. It was last night. We're going to be real quick because we already covered this on a 45-minute live stream. You can go check that out. Grant, stuck between a rock and a hard place. Tough decisions to make. He tells Latia he loves her. Then he tells Juliana he loves her. Latia thinks it's her all the way. And at this moment, she gives him a kiss and he smooches her because what the hell else is he going to do? And then she gives her whole spiel about why she's in love with her. And then he's like, hold on a second, I don't think so. And she's like, what? And then, of course, she changes her tune. No surprise there. She felt duped, and maybe she was. My thought is this, it's a 100-yard race, and Latia was winning for the first 99 yards, and then out of nowhere, Juliana came and won by a nose. What do you want, Juliana is, she was the one who ended up winning, and Latia was very upset at the finale. We even had Clayton Eckert there, our pal Bachelor Clayton. When Clayton and Gary Turner are there offering advice, it's not going to be good for your boy Grant. So, people are upset with them. But what is that saying? Let those of us that have not told multiple women on The Bachelor we loved them throw the first stone. Is that how it goes? So it didn't really work out. What can you do? So he tells her, hey, you're not the one. And she's like, I beg your pardon. And there it is. That's how it ends. Maybe Latia will be on Paradise this summer. I Either way, as far as Grant's concerned, he's shipping up to Boston. Yeah. Shipping up to Boston. Yeah. All right. Did I trigger any New Englanders right there with my cantankerous Rhode Island voice? Sorry, I've got a little clam chowder in my throat. So there they are. Masshole and Grant, wherever the heck he's from. I think they'll be fine. Good for them. Grant didn't really, I guess, want to live up to Latia's timeline. She was looking for kids. So he settled down with Juliana, and we'll have to see how they do. So anyway, there's your update. And of course, we find out that Golden Bachelor will be hanging out with Bachelor in Paradise. I think it's a great idea to have Golden Bachelor on the set of Bachelor in Paradise. The best part about Golden Bachelor, if you ask me, was when it was like Jack, doing cannonballs and flipping burgers. So if we can have a Golden Bachelor that are there to find love, but also maybe to provide some, guidance to these knucklehead, Gen Z people that are all wearing suits with no socks on. They don't know their ass from their ankles. What's the saying? Either way, I think it'll be fun. The question is, will we have any Golden Bachelors hitting on some of the younger people? I mean, some of the Golden Bachelorette contestants are only in their mid to late 50s, so the age range isn't crazy. Put it this way, if you're 60, the old rule, half your age plus 7 is 37, and Danielle Maltby is 39. So, we could see what happens. Maybe Nick Viall could teach people a thing or two about a good age gap. All right. Well, speaking of age gaps, we have what appears to be a boomer. No offense out there. Don't mean to trigger the booms. But we have a boomer coach. Comes back from retirement. Former high school basketball coach cited for harassment after pulling players' hair. So here's some of the video. It's a real sad moment. Pulls her hair and he's trying to talk to her. And it's like, bro, this ain't the 1960s. Where you get away with snapping at hair. We have a thing called cameras. So luckily, this other lady steps in and says, no, you're not going to be doing that. New York high school basketball coach who was fired for pulling his player's hair is facing more problems than a lost job. He's been cited for harassment. Listen, if I'm him, best defense I could make is that I've got lead poisoning. They had lead in the paint up until the 1980s and also lead in the gasoline. So it's a neurological disorder which makes people angry. Remember that when you're at Thanksgiving this year and your uncle's pretty weird. Just remember, hey, he's not a creep. He's just got lead poisoning. And that's how I feel every time I get a rude comment. Oh, those commenters, they don't actually hate me. They're not actually unsubscribing. They just have lead poisoning. All right, well, we're going to dive right into this, right? So here's our next story. Chow Endeavor, Ari Emanuel, gives up CEO role as $25 billion go private deal closes. The renamed WME Group led by Mark Shapiro. That's a lot of words. That it's a wealthy deal when there's a lot of words like that. It was previously announced Patrick Whitesell is exiting to launch Silver Lake-backed media startup. So again, you have what was Endeavor, and then you had WME, which is William Morris. William Morris buys or works with Endeavor, then they become WME. It's one acronym, one long, whatever wordle after another. Either way, this is Ari Emanuel. This is the guy who went on Freakonomics and basically was making fun of Justin Baldoni. Well, karma comes to him. No, I'm sure he'll do just fine. But anyhow, I'll read some of this article coming next and share why he may have been ousted. Okay, this might sound incredibly boring to you, but let's try to navigate it. On Monday, Endeavor announced the closing of the deal to go private with private equity firm Silver Lake. With the move, Endeavor is changing its name to WME Group, reflecting its refocusing on the representation business. Now, I was walking around Silver Lake on my interview last week, so did I have anything to do with this? I kind of feel like I'm involved now. According to Silver Lake, when consolidating all of the value of TKO Group, parent of UFC, WWE, and more, into Endeavor, the combined total enterprise value of the company is $25 billion. So this is a big deal. It's the largest private equity sponsor public to private investment transaction in more than a decade. And boy, there is no quicker way to lose somebody on a first date than to talk about what I'm talking about right now. Boring. Well, what does this mean? Ari Emanuel is the agent for Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, right? He founded the talent agency in 1995 and most recently served as CEO of Endeavor. And of course, he's the guy that Ari, the name Ari from Entourage, right? That Jeremy Piven played, right? And he's now the executive chairman of WME Group. So WME, after being bought, is now called WME Group. Ooh, what an upgrade. I'm now Dave Neal Group. If any private equity want to join the Rush Hour podcast, we will be called the Rush Hour Group. And by the way, I hate private equity, but if they want to throw me a cool $75 million, I'll let you name me Dave Neal Group. You can rename my son for that price. Anyhow, I mean, my mom literally named me Dave Coleman Neal, that's my middle name, because someone gave her a couple $100 donation. So if I can be bought for a couple $100, I think 70 million can get you to, I don't know, I'll give my kid a mohawk if that's what you want. You know what I mean? All right. I'll wear a mullet. If anyone wants to give me a couple, $40,000, I'll wear a mullet until my birthday. Be careful what you wish for. He also continued as CEO. So he's now the executive chair of a TKO group and continues as the CEO. So what does this really mean? Well, what it means is he gets to do the job he was doing, and he can have his clients who are Martin Scorsese, Larry David, Pete Berg, and Mark Wahlberg. He can have all of those, but there's now more money involved, which means at some point they're probably, I don't know. He loses a little bit of control. So previously announced Silver Lake Transactions longtime Endeavor co-leader Patrick Whitesale will become the CEO and founder of the new, yet to be named startup with the $250 million in funding from Silver Lake to invest in and develop properties and IP across sports, media, and entertainment. Why is this a bad thing? Well, maybe it's a bad thing, maybe it's not, but I'll tell you my opinion. When these private equity groups, right, they come in, they've got a bunch of money, and they just try to squeeze the life out of everything, right? Everything's about that bottom dollar, make more money for your investors, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you're going to buy WME and every talent person that comes with it, good luck if you're not in that talent agency, from cinematographers like Martin Scorsese down the line to every actor and every, composer, anyone who's of talent that could be involved in making a movie. It's going to be up and down that synergy level. They'll be running their ads through WWE. It's just going to be one of those things where they're going to probably consolidate a lot of their synergy, and because they're going to have all of these different branches of different media conglomerates all put together. And, I guess that's a good thing for them. But, as they get bigger and bigger, my guess is it overshadows the smaller dogs. But I don't know. If there's a will, there's a way. Maybe this isn't such a bad thing. We will see. And what does this mean for Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds? Well, probably nothing. It probably means nothing. But I do find it interesting that while the microscope is targeted at them and we're looking into every move, their agent, who just spoke up against Justin Baldoni, is involved in this deal, but I'm sure he's made a lot of money on it. All right, well, Sydney Sweeney, she's looking pretty good in the news, deletes her Instagram photo of her kissing fiance, Jonathan Davino, amid breakup rumors. Now, you might think that's a good indicator of her breaking up, but I think the biggest indicator of her breaking up is that she was spotted, I guess I'm not really sure where, but on like a safari in Africa, and not with her fiance. And I'm like, I'm sorry, who goes on a safari without their loved one? I mean, if you're going to go, drive through the Serengeti and see giraffes and elephants and, other, don't you want to do that with your loved one? I don't know, maybe. But I got to tell you, if you're rich and have money like Sydney Sweeney, the best way to deal with a breakup is to go travel and make a lot of movies and money, right? That's nice. I've always been broke when I broke up with people, so I'll never know what it's like to have a good, healthy breakup while you've got money. And maybe that's a good thing. All right, well, we're going to get into, we really banged through all of that, but we're going to get into this group chat whoopsie. So let's break it down. This is interesting, right? And, I know I get people say, Dave, I don't want to hear the politics, blah, blah, blah. You got to understand, this is one of the most interesting things that has happened in our lifetime with regard to dumb moves. Top U.S. officials accidentally add journalist to Signal group chat. That's basically like a Facebook messenger, discussing military strikes on Houthi rebels. Republican and Democratic lawmakers call it a major national security issue. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, everyone remember how innocent it was back a couple years ago when everyone was getting mad at Hillary Clinton for having a private email server. By the way, yeah, I don't think you should have a private email server. But also, remember when everyone was getting mad at Barack Obama because he didn't want to get rid of his BlackBerry because they wanted to give him like an encrypted cell phone? Sure. But now we're talking about willy-nilly war plans being banged out on an app like we're all like, texting in a group chat about that friend we don't like, right? Remember, everyone's got that group chat and then the separate group chat that doesn't involve that uncle that no one wants to talk to. Here's the family group chat and here's the family group chat without Trevor, right? So either way, they were, it's absolutely ridiculous. So what I'm going to share right here is the article is called "The Trump Administration Accidentally Texted Me Its War Plans. U.S. national security leaders included me in a group chat about upcoming military strikes in Yemen. I didn't think it could be real. Then the bombs started falling." So there's a lot of irony happening here, as Pete Hegseth was seen just several years ago on Fox News saying that anyone who did anything like what Clinton did with those email servers deserves to be fired, if not worse. And boy, the irony is very strong today. Have a listen to this.
An administration-wide scandal. And these names I just read, they should be thrown in jail as well.
Yeah, let me be clear, to quote the president. Hillary Clinton, if there was anyone other than Hillary Clinton, they would be in jail right now.
Correct.
For what has been done. Because the assumption is in the intelligence community, if you are using unclassified means, there is the potential for and likelihood that foreign governments are targeting those accounts and gathering intelligence from them, which...
So that's where we play the Curb Your Enthusiasm music, which I just found out Larry David is represented by Ari Emanuel. So maybe I'll have to pay some royalties on this. But yeah, it's real rich. Now, this is when Pete Hegseth was just a Fox News anchor. But, he's doing his thing here saying, oh, yeah, it's bad. I'll finish the clip. But it's like, here's the problem I have. When you call balls and strikes, listen, who I respect? I respect dads in that Little League, when the dads are the umpires. I respect the dad that's willing to call a strike on his kid who's at bat. Strike that mother effer out, right? I respect someone who's willing to be objective and say, yeah, you know what? As a New England Patriots fan, I love it when people that hate the New England Patriots are willing to admit that Tom Brady's the best quarterback of all time, right? I enjoy that objectivity. I think I'm as objective as one could be. We all have biases here and there. And I would just love if my Republican friends out there would admit that this is as big a F up as it actually is. Specifically, I would like people like Pete Hegseth to admit, man, yeah, we really messed up. We need to relook at protocols. Now, do you think he's going to do that after being caught red-handed, sharing war plans with people in a chat group? Not exactly a high level of security.
Which means that individual and the others associated with them have been passing around through unsecure networks information, sources, and methods of people on the ground, covers compromised in real time.
Yes.
This is a real deal, full-blown national security scandal.
Right.
And Republicans need to keep pointing that out time and time again. The question is...
It is a national security scandal. And again, this was back talking about Hillary Clinton. But now when we look at it, here's what he had to say. Did Pete Hegseth own up to the fact that he royally messed up? Let's listen.
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in The Atlantic? And were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage.
So did the chat happen or not?
What he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign. because of the skill and courage of our troops.
Okay, so he says, I'd love to comment on it. Well, why don't we just hear from the journalist who was in the group chat? And by the way, folks, if you're out there thinking, hey, what's the big deal? Well, imagine if this got in the wrong hands, or imagine if the Signal app isn't actually encrypted and you've got your enemies knowing where you're going to be for wartime efforts. I mean, this could very easily lead to a lot of death and destruction. Have a listen.
Oh, they start sharing congratulatory texts, including emojis, fist emojis, fire emojis, American flag emojis with each other. So that was the day that I realized, oh, this is possibly, unbelievably, the leaders of the United States discussing this on my messaging app.
And by the way, Pete Hegseth, trying to smear this journalist saying, oh, he's a piece of crap, this and that. Well, you guys let him into the group chat. So clearly at some point or another, you were working with him as a journalist, right?
Just, can you give us a sense of your reaction in that moment that you realize you are that fly on the wall in this very critical conversation?
Honestly, my reaction was, I think I've discovered a massive security breach in the United States national security system, which is to say, it's almost automatically true that if the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic is being given access to this kind of information, weapons systems and packages and timing and weather in Yemen and all kinds of information about sequencing of particular events, then obviously there's a security breach. What is in the public interest is to know that the secretaries of defense and state and Treasury and the CIA director and the director of national intelligence and the national security advisor and the vice president are all talking on an app that you can just download on your phone. And they're not just talking about, hey, what time is it? What time should we get dinner tonight? Or when is that meeting tomorrow? They're actually talking about substantive issues relating to kinetic action directed against America's enemies.
Now, people will say I've got Trump derangement syndrome, And then, by the way, if someone's brain has to boil down these issues to, oh, you're just a hater. What, hate us because haters? What, haters gonna hate? Ainers gonna hate? Is that the saying? Yeah, we're just a whole bunch of haters. This is an embarrassment of epic proportion. Here's what Pete Buttigieg had to say. For those of us that don't quite understand how big of an epic fail this was, here's what Pete Buttigieg has to say.
And with a take on everything or comment on everything we see in the news of the day. But what we learned about today is truly incredible. The U.S. Secretary of Defense, the National Security Advisor, the Vice President of the United States, and other very senior, very powerful Trump White House officials, it turns out, discussed highly classified war plans, not only on an unclassified channel, but accidentally and randomly, it seems, including a journalist. And to see this administration claiming that it cares about competence and merit, and then be responsible for an epic fuck-up like this, demonstrates that these are not serious people. I was an intelligence officer for about 7 years in the U.S. Navy Reserve, and I occasionally handled highly classified information during my time in the cabinet as well. It can be hard to explain just how much goes into keeping that information safe. It is only available to people with a security clearance and a need to know. It's only discussed in certain facilities that are hardened to make sure that they don't have the same vulnerability to surveillance as most places. And importantly, you only ever use classified systems to discuss classified information. So America needs answers on why an unclassified, commercially available app was used, and even more importantly, how some of the most powerful people in this country didn't know that they accidentally included a journalist while they were discussing classified war plans that they had yet to authorize and execute. This is not something that's just important for its own sake. I know Americans who lost their lives because of intelligence failures. This kind of intelligence failure calls the question on whether there is any place for merit or competence in this administration at all. Because if there are not highly serious consequences for this level of screw-up, then it will make clear that all of the bluster about merit that you hear about from this White House is just bullshit.
Jeez. Sounds like Pete Buttigieg has that Trump derangement syndrome you read about. Now, isn't it wild to hear someone so eloquently explain what's going on out there? But there's folks out there, they want to believe that there must be a genius thing happening. Someone says, regarding the Signal chat in the Atlantic article, the minute I read the chat, my very first thought was that Goldberg was specifically and deliberately included so that we would leak what he saw to the public. The idea was to let Europe know just how unhappy American leadership is with Europe's unwillingness to pull its weight militarily. The back channel, seemingly accidental nature of that reveal was powerful and I believe intentional. Yeah, sure, boss. Or as I like to say, what's normally the truth is the simplest thing, which is there's a bunch of idiots using unclassified apps like Signal. And by the way, who owns Signal, right? Can they just look into the app and sell to the highest bidder? Or can now foreign governments hack into Signal to see what they've been sharing on there? Absolutely wild stuff. Well, I'll save all this other information for the next episode because we are just expired. We're out of time. I mean, isn't that enough debauchery for one day? And I know what you're thinking, Dave, we're only 1/24th the way through the presidency, or 48th. What is it? 2 months, so that's 6 to 24. 1 out of 24 down. What could possibly happen next? And I hate to tell you, but every day is a new journey. So just hang tight, take deep breaths, and we'll try to get through this together. But the thing that you can do if you don't like the incompetence that we see out there is get involved, call your representatives, and remember in the future elections, vote. I'm not telling you to vote Democrat or Republican, just vote for competence. You know, try to elevate people that are listening to you and not just people that are afraid to speak their truth because it's kind of quickly turning into an authoritarian regime. God forbid anybody stands up to this mess. Will we hear a response from our Republican comrades out there? Doubtful. But either way, I'll be here to share the truth as I see it. And if it's too much to handle, you can just say I'm deranged, that you won't be the first person. All right, more content coming your way, and we'll be back in a little bit. I'm Dave Neal, and this is The Rush.